All right. We are live on the Bagland podcast. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to look and take an objective point of view. We're going to look at several different things tonight. The first thing I want to look at is really for the young brothers out here. The first thing I want to look at is say, if you're a man of means, you don't have to get yourself into what uh, Mr. Combs got himself into. You don't have to get yourself in that situation. So that's the first thing I want to start this live off. The second thing I want to say is Sean was charged, Mr. Combs was charged with the Mann Act, which was also known as the White Slave Traffic Act. And the reason why that was created was specifically for Jack Johnson, which was a foundational black that was running around with white women. They couldn't really lynch him from a tree like how they want to. They couldn't beat his ass. So when he went across state lines with his white woman, they said that was rape. 100% consensual, of course. But what they used, the broad interpretation was called immoral purpose. In other words, I'm white and I say so. That was just an I'm white and I say so Jim Crow law. That's really what that was about. I'm white and I make the rules. I am white and I say so. That came out in 1910. So they charged him with something like that because they figured, well, we could at least get him with that. We have our good brother Solomon here online. He is live in Pittsburgh. And we were earlier discussing, and like I told him, my prediction is, and I told him like a RICO is usually more than one person. They just threw that on top of it because they said, well, he got money and maybe he used a bad boy credit card or something like that. But as you can see, the jury was pretty bright. Now, whether or not he did it, the jury of his peers has already determined that he is not guilty. The only thing he's guilty of is flying some whores across state lines. Now, people are running around saying, well, this is a step back at the criminal justice system and all that. If they would have wanted to convict him on everything, this is a black billionaire man or close to a billion, they would have convicted him. This is the United States of America, the core of the white supremacist system when it comes to attacking blacks, specifically foundationals. If they would have wanted to put him away, they could have. The jury saw that it was a bunch of BS. Maybe he had a stealth juror, maybe he didn't. But they said, wait a minute, you done took all these tax dollars, and then now they're trying to say, well, you can't get no bail. Now, Harvey Weinstein, now we know that the criminal justice system is working as it should. And what I mean by that is the criminal justice system was created for and by white men. But see, we're not going to play selective justice here. Harvey Weinstein was raping women left and right for decades. And he got a $5 million bail. And he also got an ankle monitor, which he tried to take off. Y'all could look this up. Anybody in the sound of my voice, you could Google this. This dude was trying to take his ankle monitor off. So, Diddy, the most they could give him is probably maybe 5 to 10. I hope they run it concurrent. The prosecutors want to run it consecutive. Basically means, okay, you give us 10 and then we add the other 10 because it's 2 counts he's been convicted of. So 2 counts, 2 people. A RICO is usually several people. You never have a RICO. That's how you know it was a BS case. You don't never have a RICO with something like this. It's ridiculous. We're not talking about whether we think he's a piece of shit or not, or whether he might have did these things, whatever the case may be. The jury has said that he has not. Anytime that a black person is convicted of a crime, the first thing they want to say is, oh, well, he was convicted of that, so y'all got to hold that. Okay, well, you hold this acquittal of those other counts. The United States of America and anybody listening to me right now, you got to hold that L. You got to hold that L. He said that he's not guilty. I don't care how mad y'all are or whatever. I don't give a damn. Y'all can kiss our ass. He's not guilty of those counts. He is guilty of flying some hoes across state lines. That's all he did. He did the same thing that the average white man does, buy prostitutes. That's all he did. That's all he's guilty of. Now, he already admitted to kicking her ass. He paid her $30 million for that. I don't know the one nigga on the face of the earth that got his ass kicked and got $30 million. So, you know, people can say, well, you're trying to minimize all this. And look, there's been people that have dealt with 10 times worse. She liked being on the private jets with Diddy. Oh, well, he loved her and all this old simp beta male stuff that I keep hearing. Look, they kept going back. I mean, this is a travesty. I'm not saying he's a great guy. He's a mogul. Put in a lot of work for hip hop. Can't take that away from him. But I want people to really look at this and think about this for a minute and say, hey, man, you know, you get $1 billion. You don't simp out for these hoes like this. You don't put yourself in this position. At the same time, you know, we can't have where, you know, you can't give the man bail, but you're giving the white folk bail. You giving everybody else bail. Kyle Rittenhouse had bail. He killed people. Didn't he have bail? Kyle Rittenhouse went to Wisconsin. He got a ghost gun, number one. He brought a weapon to a fist fight, pretty much. The weapon. Let me tell y'all how far. Remember when you said the term, "Who the f is Chauvin?" Let me tell you how much whiteness is valued when it comes to crime. You could be a young white dude that could drive all the way to a protest, knowing that you might be able to get into a situation. You bring a weapon that somebody illegally purchased. He wasn't even supposed to have the weapon, let alone own it. And he shot and killed several people. And they said one of the dudes he killed happened to be a child molester or whatever. But he didn't know that. You see what I'm saying? But he shot and killed several people and sat there with the judge. We watched this in Kenosha, Wisconsin, or wherever that was. We watched this and got off. And this nigga flew a couple holes across state line, and you trying to make him seem like he's the trafficker of the world? No, absolutely not. I think it's bullshit. What do you think, man?
Well, I think like his lawyer said when they were on that press conference when he walked out of the courtroom just a little while ago, he dodged a bullet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have to look at it that way too.
Well, but then you also got to take into account he's 55 years old, and if they run that concurrent,
oh gosh,
concurrently, he's gonna get it maybe 15, 16 years. That's still gonna be a lot of time.
Yeah, consecutive.
He's under the assumption. But the thing is, man, out of those two charges, man, one of them is buying pussy.
Yeah, that's it.
What the fuck? Yeah, the other one is flying a bitch past state lines to buy pussy from her. He's just being accused of being a John. At the end of the day, if there was no RICO or sex trafficking, and it was just that, this would be a misdemeanor. The DA wouldn't even pick it up.
Like in Vegas, if I tell me, okay, I'm not Diddy. I'm just a nigga from Minneapolis that probably worth, in my whole life probably been worth $100,000 or less. If I went to Vegas and did this, what would my penalty be at max?
Like if you got caught on a sting and you was buying some pussy.
Yeah, and threw her on a Spirit line for $200 and she flew her to Minnesota. What's the most I could get?
You probably wouldn't even get arrested. You'd probably get a ticket and a court date, or maybe you get arrested, but it would be a misdemeanor purchasing pussy like he got.
Like
it wouldn't be nowhere near felony.
Like the term, how they say flued out. These niggas, they get these Instagram broads and pay for their fly them out, have them good time. They kick it.
Well, and they all better watch out now.
So now what you say? Okay, so what if the dudes is gonna get charged like this, what are they charging the broads with on Cash App and Instagram? Shouldn't they get caught up in a RICO too?
Nah, yeah, well, that's the only reason you seen Cassie, well, maybe not Cassie, but 50 Cent's baby mama. That's the only reason she testified is because she was threatened with a RICO.
He's still paying her rent to this
Well,
day.
yeah. Yeah, she didn't get on the stand to hurt him. She had no intentions on hurting him. It's not like she wasn't on what Cassie was on. Once the feds found out she was a sex worker, they said, okay, you better tell us what you know. Go on the stand and answer all these questions, or we're going to hit you with a RICO.
Yeah, she didn't hurt him too bad. Yeah,
but see, the thing is, a hooker never gets in trouble. You know what I mean? The most trouble a hooker is going to get in is the same thing. A ticket, maybe overnight in jail. You know what I mean?
Totally unfair.
A hooker's going to go to jail. She's not going to get a ticket. She's going to go to jail, but to the next morning when she sees a judge, you know, or if her pimp's real, you know, real smart about things, he'll get her out right away. A pimp only goes to prison on the word of a hooker. So if a hooker, so the feds were going under the assumption that the jury's going to look at him like he's a pimp. That's why they told 50 Cent's baby mama, just go speak to what you know. At the end of the day, that helped his case because it proved, wait a minute, he's still paying her rent. That means they're girlfriends. They're dating.
I mean, that was an all-star team. I mean, they didn't even bring one witness. I mean, that was gangster.
The feds did not have a strong case at all.
I told you, when they go to trial, they have a 90. Remember you asked me the other day, what's the Fed's conviction rate? I said, well, look, we got to take this in context here. 98%. Because everyone pleads. When people hear that word RICO, that's equivalent to the word Angola. When people hear that word RICO, when that pops up and they get a lawyer, they're like, oh, because they're assuming they did all their due diligence, which usually the feds, they got unlimited resources. You know, they just did not want this to end in a mistrial. I knew he wasn't going to get the RICO. You know, the way that the judge was playing it, I was kind of thinking like, man, it's going to be some kangaroo court. But they had some weird stuff going with the jurors. The case, the big piece is, I want people to remember that white man who had immunity. They're like, hey, man, is this a criminal case? And man, I ain't never seen that nigga do nothing illegal or not. Now, he could have just lied and said that.
Or he held.
He might have threw him a few bucks. Man, that was it.
That he said
when he said that,
Diddy was making cocktails to get these bitches high and shit like that, it would have changed the connotation.
Oh yeah, it would have changed it, because now what you're saying is, hey man, you done spike somebody's drink and they can't think on their own, and you having them do these things.
Yeah, you're not a John anymore once you start doing that.
You know, because somebody's under the influence and you didn't tell them that you put it in. And see, that's what thing that happened with Cosby. Now, he was trying to buy NBC. That's what it really was about. But he was throwing stuff in the drinks, and they knew about it. He did the Quaaludes and all that. That was a thing that everybody did. They knew about that. But now, if you're putting this stuff in and don't nobody know, and you got a witness to say, yeah, I didn't know he had this in my drink. Oh, that's rough. That's rough, you know. And you got the little Danity Kane broad, and you know Cassie's lawyer was trying to get him up in there. That's how you know she was still hurt about it, because she's looking at it what it really is. To be honest, she's like, man, that nigga wouldn't marry me. That's really what that was about, because you got to think what she went and got. She didn't go and get another Diddy. And she's not going to do a damn thing when it comes to music, but she could get her Kamala Harris on, and she could go out there and do the Me Too. She could definitely, absolutely do that.
I'll tell you one bigger than even
$10,000 a trip. She could do her little woman's feminist conference thing. She could milk that for another 24 months.
I could, but I could tell you one further than even her thinking he wasn't going to marry her. When she realized he ain't doing shit for her career. Somebody came to her, probably was like, why are you with this motherfucker? Well, he's about to put my career on. And somebody was like, how long you been with this nigga? You ain't even put out one album.
I mean, she did put out an album.
but
She put
not
out.
when she was with him.
Uh,
I think
let
the
me see.
album was with the other
I
guy.
think I think
She
she
might have had
did.
one hit, but how many years was she with him? You would have thought if he's gonna put her on, she would have already dropped 2 or 3 albums by now.
Yeah, he had her
He
signed
told
for
her.
like 10 albums or something
He
like
told
that.
her he was gonna make her the new Mary J. Blige.
Oh man, that was a
That's
big
what she
lie.
said on the. That's what she said on the stand.
Yeah,
So
you
once
can't
she
touch
realized,
Mary.
wait a minute, all he's doing is just beating me up and getting high with me. He ain't finna do shit for my career.
No, you might be right. Now
Yeah,
it was
he ain't
on
gonna do
Bad
shit
Boy
for
and
my
Next
career.
Selection Atlantic 2006. So yeah, Leslie. So
That
so
was
I
his.
yeah, that was yeah. So that was that one album went gold. You know, it hit the charts and stuff because it got that Bad Boy on it. So it's gonna do what it do. Diddy gonna make it do what it do. If he wants you to make it, he can make you a hit. He gonna make
Yeah,
sure
she
you out
knew
there if he
that,
wants to. But
and
see
she knew that. So she's
now the
thinking, how
lady.
long I've been with this nigga and I ain't done shit. Somebody probably brought it to her attention. Like, damn, how long you been with this nigga and you ain't got nothing?
Yeah, she made a mixtape in 2013, but that's not really an album. Look
No,
who
why is
she
she
had on the
making a
mixtape.
mixtape? Why is she doing a mixtape where she's the top bitch for Bad Boy?
Yeah, and check this out. Now look at who she
Where's
had on there. Look, man, she had Terrace Martin. She had THC and Soundwave. You know what that is, right? That's Top
no.
Dog Entertainment producers. She had Young Chop from Chicago. He did all this real stuff. He was huge at that time. Esther Dean, Wiz Khalifa, Fabulous, Jeremiah, French Montana, Meek Mill, Pusha T, Rick Ross, Too Short. I mean, she had some major people on this album. Now it
There's a
did
banging.
yeah, but she can't sing. She's trash. But now check this out. Did she release the remix of Trinidad James All Gold Everything called All Girls All Gold featuring Trina and Lola Monroe? Lola really didn't get all that big. I didn't know Lola Monroe was from Ethiopia. I thought she was Black American. Lola Monroe's from Ethiopia. Didn't know that. But no, she was from DC. She was like a I think she was on Wiz Khalifa's CD for on the label for a little while. She had a video called Overtime on 106th and Park. So yeah, I didn't know she was Ethiopian. Yeah, but anyway, she was on there. Trina was on there, so she had access to all these people. But I want the young ladies, any young ladies that listen, I want y'all to know something. You had, and she's probably looking at Leslie as a lame. You already had like a superstar kind of producer. Like, dude already gave you a major hit. She looked at him like, man, this lame ass nigga ain't gonna bring me no further. But he was the one that helped put her on. So she went behind Leslie's back, flew down to Miami. So I don't want y'all to consider this as a saint. This ain't no saint situation. And she was a dope fiend before she met Diddy. So, this ain't no good Christian girl that came from a nun background or something crazy like that. That's not what this is, y'all. You know, I'm just painting the picture, giving you a little background. We got to take it in context because what people try to say is, oh, well, she came from she didn't have a single mother home or whatever. And hey, if your mommy and your daddy was around, a good God fearing woman wouldn't even want to be in this industry. Number one. So she had an anchoring for dope and being around rich men that could put her in certain positions. So she didn't change. She might have got her ass whooped a couple times. This was definitely an American love story with some drugs and Ike and Tina Turner. I'm not going go past that. But she was not locked in a damn dungeon either. But it would have been better for him to not simp out. That's what caused this. This is really a Diddy situation because a woman's looking for leadership. And dude, you getting high, he might have brought her the damn she might have brought him the damn drugs. Remember, they were saying that Diddy didn't get high like that back in the day. Like you said, he's older guy, probably trying to keep up, keep it cool. She probably said, "What kind of drug is this? Oh, let me try that." You know what I'm saying? So you let drugs and simping get in the way. You should have gave her another couple albums. This would have never happened. It would have never happened if he didn't do half the stuff that he was involved in. Now she wouldn't have really been able to she wouldn't have been able to. And then you got to think, Kid Cudi, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, she was getting ran through. So this ain't no, like I say, this isn't nobody, man, that young lady should aspire to be, unless you want a trauma bond. You're not gonna meet yeah. This is the only Cassie it'll be. She got her Kamala Harris on. Yeah, you young ladies, if you're listening, yeah, you ain't gonna get no $30 million. Let's just be clear about that. You're not gonna meet a Diddy. That was the one and only time that you meet a Sean Combs. That's it. That day, that gig is over with. You're not gonna meet another nigga that you could just kind of get doped out with, and the nigga have you on a private jet and get you with all these producers and stuff. And that ain't happening. Because any smart black man right now is kind of taking notice. If he's involved in any simpery, if he's involved in any freak offs and anything close to this, yeah, anybody with some sense is gonna look at this and say, okay, yeah, we can't do that no more. Yeah, we gonna get hit with a RICO at minimum, and reputation lost and everything else at max.
You
So
tripping, man. That shit's happening right now as we speak.
they not gonna be. They might
That's
fly
a
these chicks out.
mentality.
That's not what I'm talking about. Like
It's a simping is
videotaping
a
freak offs.
mentality. Simping is a mentality that men have. It's not like a man's gonna not be a simp to one girl and then be a simp to another. No,
So you're saying,
motherfucker.
you're saying that you could get another $10-20 million simp ass nigga that's in the rap game or NFL, because them NFL dudes are a lot of them are like that. And you're saying that he'll have his freak offs, put them on tape, and get to flying these chicks out and put himself in a position like this.
Yeah, it's happening right now. There's a rapper right now that's flying a girl out right now tonight.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
Gosh.
it's a guarantee. No
Unbelievable.
guarantee because it's a form of status. Basketball players, athletes do it too. One guy named Jordan Poole that plays with the Wizards, NBA. He flew out that Ice Spice, gave her $500K,
Oh, man.
and she bragged about the shit.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean that's gonna be a part of it. Maybe motherfuckers might be a little more cautious, to a certain degree about, maybe not cutting the ticket themselves, or maybe, giving her the money and having her cut the ticket. They might do some shit like that. Like a guy like Academics, he's known to do that. So he might be smarter about it now and just cash app her the money and then say you cut the ticket.
I
He's
want to
real
play.
big on flying girls out.
I want to play something. Um, that forensic expert that basically is getting a lot of these artists they bread back, man. Gongu Roach.
Yeah.
What it was really about, what I think this was all about, was two things. Because we can't act like this man ain't powerful. Yeah, he might have ripped off some blacks. He might have smacked some hoes up. Maybe he made people do freak offs, whatever. But nonetheless, Sean Puffy Combs is a legend. Well, let's not try to act like he wasn't one of the one and only people to do what he did. Now, when you get power like this, it's not wise to do what he did. But this whole thing with the RICO, what does the RICO do? If you're a man with resources, what's the major thing that the feds do? If you have a lot of resources, what do they do? They drain them. As Donald J says, drain the swamp. They drain your swamp. You won't have a swamp. Oh, you flew her over, used that credit card. Oh, somebody said that you smacked her upside the head and said you're going to release the tape. Oh, that was tied to your American Express, Bad Boy Entertainment. RICO, criminal enterprise. All that publishing, all them royalties, that private jet, you got all of that. We want it all. That's what they were trying to get. They wanted to have the bad boy in a white man's hands again. That's what they wanted to get. They really, really wanted to get a hold of that. That's what folks are really mad about. Because, see, white men can do the same thing and do like Diddy did. He got off. Some people, you got to think, they're looking at this like he got off free. He didn't get a life sentence. You a black man with that kind of money and power, you supposed to get a life sentence. That's how people are looking at it. Like, man, you supposed to get life. You're black. He beat a RICO. He beat the government at its own game. And now they're saying, well, you can't have no bail. So basically, they're giving him a denial of bail on mitigated circumstances. They're giving him a denial of bail as if he got convicted of the charges that he was acquitted for. Nobody gets a denial of bail that has $1 million, man, just for flying out some hoes. You ain't getting denied a bail for that. You didn't kill nobody. You see what I'm saying? He didn't rape anybody. He didn't kill anybody. Nobody gets that. You got $1 million. They're like, let me get that. They did this to basically punish him. Like, yeah, nigga, we know you did something. Now the jury says you didn't, but yeah, you're dangerous. You might contact the victims. And you know damn well that man was on his hands and knees. He thought he might go away for life. He was thankful, like, damn, man, I'm going to do a little bit of time, but shit, at least I still got it intact. My reputation is crap. I won't be able to do no more freak offs. I ain't going to be able to do no more parties. I ain't going to be able to go to no conferences. I can't shake nobody's hand in the industry. But I still got Bad Boy, still got the private jet. My family still got some paper. My mama going to handle it. You know, I can still live a life. Now, I know I'm going to be able to go. I know I'm going to be able to go to certain places. And you got to think, this is how Sean's looking at it. He's like, all right, now OJ, which we know, it's possible he could have did it. Now, the bottom line is he was not guilty. And just like his defense, they did an excellent job. Man, OJ was still running around with white women, and he was in Florida of all places. So Sean's like, well, hell, if OJ could just, OJ was walking around playing golf. He was acting like he didn't do that shit, and didn't nobody touch OJ. OJ went out like a gangster. That nigga was still playing golf, still running around with white women, still had money. They couldn't get all his money. So Diddy, he's disliked, but he's not as much hated as white society hated OJ. So he can still get out and have a couple bucks. You know, he'll still, it's this manufactured hate. See, here's the thing. And like what I was telling you about R. Kelly, and as long as you got money, people want to give you a chance. All this fake manufactured hate, oh, he's the scum of the earth and all that. There's white men that do the same thing times 50 that are known in Hollywood. Known. The Roman Polanskis. They would say that raped kids and did all kind of shit. Great director. He does one of my favorite movies. Weinstein. We did this broadcast. I did it with you years ago. Let me. I got this AI on it. You know how I am. I come with the facts. Now you know AI ain't gonna lie about this. I'm talking about in terms of numbers. How many Harvey Weinstein? Because I got an AI software. I got an engineering software right in front of me. So, anything you want to ask when it comes to sales, whatever, yeah, we could get it together. How many Harvey Weinstein movies are still streaming? Give me 2 moments. As of July 2nd, now I'm going to name them. Untouchable, Serve Harvey Weinstein. Okay, I didn't type it in right. Okay, how many Harvey Weinstein? How many movies produced by Harvey Weinstein? You got to ask that question.
His production company,
because that's where it's at. Okay, you acted in a movie. That don't mean anything. Did you produce it?
Yeah, he ain't never acted in no movies or produced. I think he owned a production company.
He owned a production company. Now, here we go. And check this out. Now, everybody was belly aching about R. Kelly. Oh, don't stream his music, take his music down. They actually took it down for a little bit. But look at this. Harvey Weinstein, who done raped about 1 million broads. Man, you got The Immigrant by 2013, The Current War, The Fall. Uh, why isn't it showing all of this? Because I know he still has. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. How many Harvey Weinstein movies did he produce? That'll tell us all of it. There we go. 228 films, co-executive producer 16 films, producer 16 films. So the executive producer is the boss. That's the person that makes the head decision to say, okay, this is how this is going to go. This is the director we want. That's the numbers. Now, all of those movies are available for purchase. If anybody's watched Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's Harvey. Well, I like supporting the man, the Wayans brothers, but I don't like supporting Harvey. Well, you watched it. So my point is, when people say, well, we got to separate this person from that. Well, even with Nickelodeon, you know about that scandal and stuff. Tons of people in Hollywood. Them kids ain't lying about that. That documentary about Nickelodeon, them touching all them kids. That dude still works for Nickelodeon. So, and those shows are still on TV. That's why I didn't want to hear nothing when they were talking about, well, they should take the Cosby Show. Leave that shit on. That's one of the most positive black and stellar Black American series ever known to mankind. And I stand behind that. That actually showed black folks and whites, especially whites. Yeah, we don't all live in Cabrini Green. We don't live like Good Times. And I'm not taking away from Good Times, because Amos and forgot her name. Esther Roll, the Caribbean woman that played Florida Evans. She was one of the first sisters that basically said, we ain't doing this single mother stuff. You see what I'm saying? We ain't doing this single mother stuff. We gonna have a strong black family. Esther Rose was a writer. Remember, she was in Rosewood. Remember, and then John Amos played in Kunta Kinte, Coming to America. You know what I'm saying? Like, I definitely can't take away Good Times, but if you're watching Good Times, you could assume, well, damn, all these niggas live in Cabrini Green. Cosby wasn't about that. You had Bill Cosby, who was already very successful. I think he was already a millionaire when he was in the series. Successful comedian and a successful salesperson, I believe, too. You got Felicia Rashad. Felicia Rashad reminds me of Coretta Scott King. That she was the flagship example of positive black womanhood in America. Everybody wanted to watch the Cosby and wish they was in the Cosby's house. That showed black folks having high-paying careers, family, nuclear family structureship. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I wasn't trying to hear nothing about them. Well, they need to take the Cosby Show down because he got convicted. Man, the hell with that. All these other shows are they were talking about that. I remember at one point they were talking about that should be taken down. Well, then the white shows should be taken down because y'all got about 1,000 sex predators under Hollywood. So, it stayed up, of course, because, black folks might have raised a little hell like, no, you ain't taking it down. I think maybe enough black people probably said, no, we want to see it and whatever. You know what I'm saying? And people still watch it. Even the people that say they don't want to watch it, they still watch it. But, I think a lesson should be learned about what you do when God blesses you with that kind of money and success, man. You don't just throw that away. You don't let freak offs and drugs and simpery overpower, because you're Sean Puffy Combs. You got here by hard work. Didn't nobody give you nothing, and even if somebody gave him a chance, they, people say, well, maybe he did some strange things for some change, whatever the fuck he did. That nigga worked hard. Even the people that talk to him, like, man, you come over here with Puff, nigga, you ain't getting no sleep. Tired means fired. What the bodyguards were saying. You working. They said when that man was on vacation, he's working. You don't get to that point. You don't get to where he got by accident. People say, well, the Illuminati this, Illuminati that. Man, damn that. Yeah, he might have did the Illuminati, whatever. Maybe he stood in a circle and put some carrot juice on a dead crow and prayed to it, whatever the hell. The bottom line is that dude was an intern at one time, and you raised arguably one of the largest record labels by a black person in the history of mankind, besides Motown and, Suge and Master P and stuff. But I'm just saying, like, Bad Boy, No Limit, Cash Money, Death Row, Def Jam. And Def Jam wasn't 100% black owned. I think it had some, but I'm just saying, like, we just want to talk about some black owned monstrosities of success. Bad Boy, No Limit, Death Row. You can't go, like, you asked me a question the other day. You said, man, in 93, or like we was in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, would you ever think that Suge would be doing a life sentence? Sean would be in jail? You know what I'm saying? I would have never thought that. Now, Suge was always into some stuff, so he just wanted to keep that gangster, LA gang shit going. So he probably would have went to jail anyway. He was going to jail a lot anyway. But even Suge Knight, Suge would run up in them white folks in them labels and do that. It was a couple rappers that did it. It was Suge. Ice Cube ran up in some of them labels. David Banner was just talking about it, how, like, when Like a Pimp came out, they had already put that out. And he was talking about how, like, they was not trying to pay him. And he ran up in Universal Records. Universal Records has a history of trying to play folks. Now, they didn't play Cash Money, I don't think. I think initially they might have did something, but, you got to have folks like that. We got to give folks like that credit that say, hey, no, you going to pay niggas. You ain't just going to do us just any old kind of way. So, unfortunately, you might have to pull up in the studio or up in a building, scare them people. Hey, I'll throw you through this damn 20th floor. Pay me my bread. You pay them white boys, but you don't want to pay me. I'm making you filthy rich and you don't want to pay me. Now, I don't think Diddy really did that. You know what I'm saying? He could have gave his artists a better deal, of course, paid them their royalties and publishing and all that. So, we got to look at that too. We got to say, well, hey, man, you dug up a lot of bad bones, man. There's some things that you could have did. Like I was saying, you don't get rich by paying people. You get rich by not paying people. Unfortunately, yeah. You get rich. You want the best deal. That's one thing JT the Bigger Figure was saying. He's like, well, you discovered game. He said, man, your label always wants the best deal. The music business is not inherently ethical. You have to make it ethical. The music industry is business, and music business is usually not very ethical. So you really got to know your lawyers, and the lawyers a lot of times be ripping you off. They'll slide something in it for them. So, but Diddy wasn't getting ripped off. Suge Knight made sure they had the bread. Master P definitely wasn't getting ripped off. Now let's talk about Master P. You said it's his last show. Master P was the blueprint. I remember at one point Sean was telling Master P when he met him, like, man, you killing it. Because he had the Michael Jackson deal. $10,000 from an insurance. I think his grandma is passed or something. Somebody gave him 10 grand. I think his grandma passed or somebody passed or something. Somebody got a settlement, gave him 10 grand. He went straight to the Bay Area and got that game. He didn't take him to buy a car. He drove him and his son Romeo to the Bay Area. I think they were living. Eventually he got like a shop. He laid out the carpet so other artists can learn and get the game, it was no limit that first did that. There was no other. The only other person that might have had something close to that was James Brown, but that was before hip hop. Before James Brown architected hip hop, there was no such thing as Master P or whatever. He probably was maybe 5 years old or something when he was doing that, so James Brown had like a private jet in his own label in the studio and all that till they started messing with him. But and I think Sam Cooke, they say that the mafia assassinated Sam Cooke because Sam Cooke was kind of getting his Master P on. I think he was the first black man to own his masters. Let me check. So this is a good teaching moment, y'all. All right. The first black man to own his master recordings is widely recognized by Ray Charles. That was in 1960. Music industry pioneer. He left Atlantic Records and signed with ABC Paramount. Ray Charles negotiated a groundbreaking contract that gave him ownership of his masters, something almost unheard of, especially for black artists. Now, why this mattered? It's breaking it down. He retained control over his music catalog. It set a new standard for artist empowerment. It opened the door for future artists to negotiate better terms. Now, the significance of it says his deal was revolutionary because most artists, especially black musicians, had no ownership over their work. Record companies typically retain all rights to the masters. Charles' negotiation demonstrated not just artistry, but business acumen. The legacy. Now, listen to this. Now, these are stones that foundational blacks laid out really for the planet, if not the United States. Artists like Prince, Michael Jackson, and more recently, Jay-Z and Nipsey Hussle would later fight for or secure ownership of their masters, as Charles did it first. So if anybody wants to know who did it first, if you have a deal, if you have the Master P deal, if you have a good record deal, you owe that to Mr. Charles. You have that deal because of Mr. Charles, not because of you. Mr. Charles opened that door for you, and you're welcome. So Nipsey was kind of following along Master P, and this is the thing. P had to go, and he had to pay 10 grand just to sit down to Michael Jackson's lawyer. He was like, man, 10,000? Let me see if I can pull this audio up. He was like, $10,000 just to sit down with you, man? He was talking about how him and his brother C Murder got into a fight on the plane almost. I think I found it. They went to LA, I think, and they sat down with Jimmy Iovine of Interscope Records. And I think Jimmy Iovine was going to give him $1 million. Well, $1 million back then, that's a lot of money. But P was thinking, he said, well, wait a minute. $1 million, how much are you going to make? So, he kind of held on. Something told him to kind of hold on, like, man, if you're going to give me $1 million, I got to be worth more. So him and his brother, they got into it about that. And he was like, man, you going to turn down $1 million? You crazy. You're insane. And he was like, man, just wait. So let me play this, and I want to see what you think.
It's probably the best 25 grand. Right. So I went to Michael Jackson attorney. So everybody want to be in the music business, but you need to know your business.
Right.
At that time,
the business of the music.
Yeah, so I went to Michael Jackson, was the highest paid entertainer at that time at 22% of record. And I said, I went to his attorney.
That's a lot, bro. 22% of record. That's a lot of money, man. So let me see. Let's do the math. All right. How much was a CD? Do you remember how much we paid for CDs to Sam Goody?
$15.
$15?
Say 20.
All right, let's just say 20. Let's give it $18. So 22% times $18. Let's just say that. $4, that's $3.96. That's a lot of money, bro.
Times how many million records?
Yeah, so you go platinum at $4 a nigga.
And that's Michael Jackson went platinum how many times?
Let's look that up. It was Darkchild, a producer, real big producer. I forgot his name, or well, he did almost everything, man. He was. I'm gonna try to pull that up. He was talking about how, I think he said, Michael Jackson. I mean, he owned damn near half of Sony. Unprecedented. That's another reason why they had to get him out the way. Like, okay, you own the Beatles, nigga. Like, you're way too powerful. Michael Jackson was probably one of the most powerful artists on earth. He's like, okay, we can't have that. Yeah, you on that reparations Martin Luther King shit, that Land Grant colleges. Like, you trying to own some shit. They like, oh no. No, we can't have that. You gotta go. I really think they did something to him, bro. Like, I mean, we can't have no black man owning the Beatles. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine how many records did Michael Jackson sell? It's got to at least be over 400 million at least, but all right. Damn. This nigga sold 500 million. Estimated between 400 to 500 million globally, including singles, albums, digital downloads. Now, Thriller, and this is 82. And you remember this as a kid. We used to have the Michael Jackson jackets. You remember Thriller. Thriller came out in 82, so I was just born. But we were still playing Thriller like it just came out when I was 10. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Thriller sold about 70 to 100 million worldwide. It's recognized as the best-selling album in music history. And then Bad, that came out in 87, 35 to 45 million. Dangerous, 91, 32 million. History, 95, 20 million. Off the Wall, 1979, 20 to 30 million. He's been, it says over 89 million certified albums sold. At that point, bro, where you going to put your plaques? Well, you got to have like a warehouse to put how many plaques? He can't even fit that many plaques in his house. So, yeah, so Thriller went 34 times platinum. Bad, 35 to 45 million, so that's over 11 times platinum. First album with 5 consecutive singles in the U.S. Global sales, 32 million for Dangerous, 7 times platinum. I mean, like I said, bro, now singles, Billie Jean, 10 million plus, Beat It, 6 million. And see, here's what you got to keep in mind. We didn't stream back then. These are people that actually have to go out and buy the record, the vinyl or the CD or the tape. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, he's certified over 89 million records. So yeah, I don't think anybody will ever beat that. I mean, you got like there's a couple rock groups that got close. So I'm not gonna minimize them, but I'm saying that's the way they say the king of pop. That man, the king of all kings. Now I understand why they said Chris Brown was like the new Mike Jack, and he had to tell people. Chris Brown was like, man, I ain't nothing like Jack. He patented stuff off Jack when he was like 12 or 13. That's what he used to listen to. That's how he got his dances and all that. Just like Michael Jack got his dances from James Brown. But, just like he had that respect for Mike Jack, like they were like, oh, you like the new Michael Jackson? He said, man, I ain't nothing like Michael Jackson, bro. I can't touch that. Like, he had some humbleness, just like Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson, he sold way more than James Brown. But you would never get Michael Jackson to ever say, oh, I'm close to James Brown, or I'm better than James Brown, or I do me. He would never say that. He looked at James Brown like a father. He humbled himself. And James Brown loved it. James never sued any rappers. You know that?
Yeah, he never did.
He could have. He could have said, you know what? He said, no, I don't want y'all sampling my music. He just let niggas have it. He just let him have it. He never sued nobody. I don't even think he tried to even get no money out the rappers. James Brown could have came back later, man, and said, man, I want all my money. Really, he would pretty much own hip hop in a way. Like, nigga, y'all sampled all my shit. I want it all. Give me my royalties at least. I don't even think he asked for that. I don't even know if he asked for credit. James Brown was wide open, man. That was so gangster. He was like, man, y'all can have that shit. Like, I love it. James looked at it like, you keeping the funk alive. That's how he's seen it. Y'all, you keeping the funk alive as long as it's funky. As long as it's funky, I ain't got no problem with it. You know what I'm saying? You keeping the funk alive. So, let me play this P thing, and it will go on.
He say, man, if I'm gonna sit down, which is gonna cost you $25,000.
That's what the attorney told you.
That's his retainer.
25. Did I say 10,000? How much did I say he paid him? I thought I said maybe, did I say 15? He paid 25.
Or just to sit down.
Just sit down.
I can't afford this still. With this guy, leave this alone. But go ahead, P. I'm sorry.
So I give him the 25. I went sit down with him. He said, man, look, the only way you're gonna get a deal bigger than Michael Jackson is a distribution deal. And it's an 85-15 deal. But then you're gonna have to come up with about
so 85-15. They say Mike Jack was getting 22%, which is unheard of anyway. But he said he wanted a better deal than Michael Jackson.
$200,000 or $300,000. I said,
for each project?
No, we just say that what you need for marketing money.
Oh, okay.
If you're gonna get that deal, I'm like, dude, I gave you $25,000 and tell me I need $200,000 to $300,000.
Right.
But it was probably the best $25,000 I spent in my life.
Wow.
Because after that, that's all I wanted. I wanted a distribution deal. Every record company that came at me said I wanted a distribution deal. And then when Priority came, they said, if you're gonna pay the marketing,
right,
we're gonna give you that deal. And that's what happened. I end up making more money than the record company.
One person we can always learn smart business moves from is Master P.
Do you know how sick the record company? They probably want to try to figure out a way to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, bro. I think the record label. I'm actually surprised that they didn't have a well, they were gonna make some money, but I'm actually surprised that none of these labels, the labels at the time, didn't try to like. I mean, they couldn't really get Master P with any criminal RICO stuff or nothing like that, because that man was legit. That man wasn't messing with the streets at all, bro. Like, he wasn't like once he got out the streets, he went squeaky clean. For real. Like, you don't get to that point and then, like, he wasn't messing with no drugs and none of that stuff. He was like, man, we selling records. He understood the value of his power and he respected it. That's why he was able to get where he was getting, regardless of whether people like the music or not. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about power dynamic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that man did some shit that folks just wasn't doing. I don't even know if a lot of rock artists had a Michael Jackson deal. I don't think they did, bro. I don't even know if people like Sting had a deal like that. Maybe. So what was your thoughts?
On what?
What was your thoughts on, you sent me a clip on his last show, and just bowing out of hip hop without having no RICOs, no criminal, no scandals, nothing, just squeaky clean and be able to just be out the game.
Family man. He was a family man. He was a father. He really took a lot of time with his kids. And his kids were into playing basketball and different things. So he kind of, he got away from everything. He got into being a father more. And then he got Lil Romeo, had his own little show, didn't he?
He had a show, and I think up here,
his son was playing basketball up here at one of the major high schools.
Yeah, they got a
Percy.
Actually, this is. Let me see here.
Percy Miller.
Let me see. Master P, Minnesota. Let's give this.
Yeah. The son is going to one Minnehaha High School, Minnehaha Academy.
All right, check this out. Here go. Here, no, this is TMZ Sports. Now, we gonna talk a little bit about sports. I try not to get too much into it because I don't know a lot about it, but you're the sports expert. So any sports questions, I'm gonna let you break it down. So check this out.
Hey, how's it going? I like I'm loving. I'm seeing the superstar with the other superstar. How you guys doing?
Nah, man, Hurst is doing good. Playing great basketball. Nobody thought that his team would beat Sierra Canyon, which, you
beat Bronny's team, bro. Good job. You guys are the number 5 team in the nation right now. Like, so this is the time of year where
this is 5 years ago, y'all. Just so y'all know.
National championship starts coming up. Are you guys think you're gonna take it, or what's gonna happen?
I mean, with us, Minnesota, like, they don't allow us to travel out of, like, you gotta stay, like, states in, like, the borders, but we're trying to get to.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with that? So you guys can't compete in the national championship? What's the deal?
Well, you know what? Right now, unless the legislature changed the law, it's also not just us, but the girls' team called Hopkins High School. That's the number 1.
Okay.
And they can't travel either because the game is in New York.
Okay.
So even when we played Sierra Canyon, they had to come to Minnesota to play.
So you literally can't even compete for a national championship unless the game takes place in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or the law has to change.
The law has to change.
So what exactly are you guys doing in order to change that?
You know what? We putting it in God's hand and keep playing ball.
Okay.
Keep getting better. Hope.
All right. Well, what's this law? Are you familiar with this law? Where he's saying they can't play?
Yeah, well, certain states, they don't allow their high schools to travel to play other states' high schools. You know, and that's because Minnesota doesn't really produce that many pros players. So, like, a lot of, like, if you got Texas, California, they'll do stuff like that to showcase the different talents to the different scouts because they got so many talented players. It's hard for the scouts to see everybody. But a place like Minnesota, they want, for instance, like South High, if they were a really good basketball team, they couldn't go play the top team in California. Like a tournament, you know, like a little scrimmage tournament. Basically, those are just for scouts to get a good look at everybody. But see, Minnesota is not. High school hockey is big here. Not high school football and basketball. Those aren't real big in Minnesota. Minnesota hockey is the big sport.
All right, now, did you know that Minnesota-based Post was based here? Check this out.
So today, rap legend Master P came by KARE 11 telling us we're the first to find out about a new business deal between Post Cereals and Snoop Dogg. Post is headquartered here in Minnesota in Lakeville, and Kaya talked to Master P about the importance of this story and diversifying the breakfast aisle.
It's called Snoop Cereal.
And Master P is a serial entrepreneur.
We want to make something for our people.
The rap legend is Snoop Dogg's business partner at Brodus Foods.
Me and Snoop, like, you know what? We want to take care of the community and be able to build economic empowerment. And so that's what this brand is about.
Just back from a meeting at Minnesota-based Post Consumer Brands, P is announcing Snoop cereal will hit shelves worldwide.
The deal we did with Post is adding diversity into these stores to be able to have an African-American owned company. Post believed in our brand, and Post believe in diversity.
The new deal comes after the rappers last week announced they would need a new name for their existing cereal, Snoop Loops. Snoop writing on Instagram, they don't want us to use Snoop Loops on our cereal box, even though that's my name. Now, though, there are 3 new names.
They thought we was going to have one. Look how go at work. It's a blessing.
Frosted Drizzlers, Cinnamon Toasties, and Fruity Hoops.
Our character on the box is the lead character, Captain Ace. He's the Kobe Bryant of cereal.
A character for the culture.
It's important because we spend trillions of dollars as African Americans. When you look at Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, those was the closest products to we thought.
It's interesting. I see in the comments you got a bunch of race soldiers talking shit. Now I'm gonna be honest. I tried them. They're a little too sweet. I think we got to have a little bit more healthy stuff. But what I'm not gonna do is I'm saying for me, I'm diabetic and stuff, so it's not for me. But what I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna shit on their business. I'm not gonna, because most of that crap in the store, like they don't even sell that stuff in Europe, bro. Majority of the stuff we grew up eating, it's really not good for consumption of a dog. So as much as I think it is sweet for me, it ain't much different than the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is just a black man that has a cereal, and that's it. So they had a lot of trouble getting that stuff together because folks was playing a lot of games. It shouldn't be that hard getting no cereal together. It's just a box of damn poison. You see what I'm saying? But like you said, they was playing with them, and there was a lot of stuff that they were getting. And as much money as him and Snoop got, they still had a bunch of trouble. So as you can see, you can look at the comments. You just got race soldiers just going off for no apparent reason. It's a box of cereal. What you gonna get mad about? You can't say, oh, well, it's unhealthy. All that shit's unhealthy. If you ain't eating regular cereal, regular like oats and, that cereal, bro, that's really, really, really healthy that don't nobody really like, that be on the left side of the store. Because all the garbage they put on the right side. The left side, the grains and all the whole oats and all that, that's all on the left side. That's real good. So, Post was in Lakeville. And just to give my listeners some information about Lakeville. Lakeville is a south suburb in the South Twin Cities, a growing suburb. I used to work out there as a business analyst. I actually worked out there, and I was working with an insurance company, some years ago, where I actually had to go out to the Mississippi of the East Coast, which I call Boston. And so, speaking of the East Coast, I want to give you the floor for a minute, and I want you to kind of tell us about Pittsburgh, and if you've seen some black folks out there, man, some black businesses and things of that nature.
Yeah, I see plenty of black folks all over. I didn't really notice any black businesses, but I haven't really been in the town too much.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a little different from New York and in Boston and all that. It's a little harder, if that makes sense. People are even tougher here than I noticed in Boston and New York. There's just less to do.
Blue collar?
They're very blue collar, very what are you staring at? What are you looking at? Kind of people. For sure. You ain't got to go far to get in a fight out here if you're looking for that.
Okay, so they're all ready for some hands and feet, huh?
Yeah, they're ready.
So it's the kind of place you kind of want to mind your business a little bit.
Yeah, you want to mind your business for sure.
Now, when you do actually sit down and talk to people, and people find out you ain't trying to mind their business, how are they?
Well, I've been in my box truck, and I don't know, I really haven't had that kind of interaction with the locals to that extent.
Okay.
You don't really want to do that, You learn that when you're driving a truck. You don't really want to tell people what you got going on.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to tell people that you're not from there, and you don't want to tell people you're just passing through, because they'll rob your ass. Knowing you don't know nobody, knowing you're leaving tomorrow. So you just kind of get kosher, you just kind of, I've talked to some people at the gas station. I'll be here until tomorrow afternoon. So as far
What's
as
the accent goes, like?
There isn't really one, because it's a Pennsylvania. So you don't really, there isn't much of an accent. Well, it's kind of like they're, instead of saying Gary, they say Gary.
Gary, okay.
Gary, the GAs are a little more pronounced.
Now, when they say,
there's a guy in front of me when we were getting our food, and they said his name. They said Gary. I noticed that.
Okay, now when they say car or they say car?
Car.
They say car. Okay. So
that's Boston.
That's Boston. Okay, yep. In Chicago, they say car. In Boston, they say car, or they say park the car.
In Boston, it's a crazy wicked, pack the car. The guy's
Kyle.
crazy wicked. Yeah, he paid crazy wicked. Chicago, they just don't know how to talk.
They can talk. They
Joe,
just talk
yeah,
fast.
Joe,
It's a
Joe.
miss.
86, Joe.
I don't
36
see.
hot, Joe.
I don't hear Joe too much no more. They don't say Joe too much no more. Maybe the older people or something. But you got to think Chicago is Southern based, so they talk a little faster. But most people from Chicago's from Mississippi. As far as their grandparents, so they never really lost that accent. It gets a little faster. But yeah, I haven't heard Joe in a long time. That's some old 40, 50-year-old nigga shit. Like, I ain't heard Joe in a minute. They say phonem or some shit. That's like, they say something different now. Phonem.
No, but I'd much rather be here than in Chicago.
So from what you're saying, Chicago would not really be your cup of tea.
Fuck no. No. But if I had to pick one place in the Midwest, I'd want to be on a Saturday night with a pocket full of money. It would be downtown Chicago.
Oh yeah, man, that's a beautiful town. I tell you.
I would love that. Like if I was in Chicago and I was on the north side, I'd be great. All that hood shit, nah, man, I'm cool.
Now people will tell you, yeah, stay your ass in downtown. Folks out of town will tell you that. Like if you ain't got family and all that, just let's go down the old block.
And this is something Minneapolis needs to learn. One thing Chicago's good at is they keep that ruckus away from downtown. They keep that nonsense away from the Navy Pier. They ain't gonna allow nobody over there on no foolishness.
No, that ain't happening. I noticed that in Boston too when I was there. They don't whatever goes on in the city, far as beefs and stuff like that, they keep that away. They keep that away from the from like the tourists and stuff like that.
They got certain areas where you're not fucking with our money. These people is coming here to spend money. They don't want you bum ass motherfuckers fucking with it. And they're gonna make sure of that shit.
Nah, they ain't letting you do that. There was one situation where like a drill rapper got killed downtown, but he was in a high. He was in a high. He was shopping at a high end place. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know that these people were coming down there to do that. That ain't something that typically happens. They heard he was downtown, and they went downtown with the intention of wiping him out, and they did. It was called the Gold Coast area. That's a high end. I mean, high end. You got to have money down there. But the thing is, he had money.
Yeah,
he wasn't no broke nigga. Yeah, that nigga had some. Yeah, he got a couple bucks. That nigga wasn't no broke nigga. He was like an underground rapper, but he was, I mean, he wasn't no Jay-Z, FBG Duck, but he was something. Like he was popular. Like I mean, I'm saying on an underground level. Millions of views on YouTube. Do a show, probably make 20, 30,000. That's pretty damn good for a young nigga. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he had money. It's not, those drill guys in Chicago. Chicago, they still got it, but at one point they had it so big to the point where, New York wasn't really doing too much. It was LA and Chicago and the South. That's who had it, and still to this day. But he was doing very, very well. He ain't even really reached his prime that much. But the street shit. Some dudes heard he was downtown. Somebody backdoored him. They heard he was downtown. Somebody probably in his crew probably said, "Yeah, man, just give me a couple grand, man. I'll help you knock the nigga off." Some nigga that was around him probably hating, called some niggas up from the ops, and they came down there and took care of him. You know what I'm saying? Came down there and took care of him, and them niggas doing life now. O Block, they say. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, don't go to O Block. Yeah, don't go down there to look at the King Von mural. That's not a place you need to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know better than that.
Yeah, some people try to
go to. I don't go when I'm traveling with my trucks and all that, and I'm traveling. I don't make it a point to go to the hoods.
Yeah, there's really no point. It's no point. It's no point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make it a point to do that shit. You know what I mean? I already experienced that shit growing up. I already know what it is. It ain't nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing to really, the tourists and stuff, they may want to do it a little. Let's go to O Block, man. You're gonna get your ass robbed and beat up. Yeah, trying to go see King Von's mural.
I had a friend come in from Wichita, Kansas, and she was like, let's go to the George Floyd. I said, you can go, I'll give you the address. You can go down there. He's like, why don't you want to go? I said, I'm not going to go anywhere where police and ambulances are not allowed. What the fuck sense does that make? If somebody hurt me or something and I'm just going to die? You got me fucked up. I ain't going nowhere near that fucking place. For what?
Yeah, when I go, I'm going to spend money. I like the smoke wings from Smoke in the Pit. That was one of the businesses where they was getting. I think that was the Smoke in the Pit dude, where he was telling his Floyd's aunt, like, hey man, you let these white liberals get all this bread and you ain't give us, She tried to act like she didn't know and talking about COVID and all this other little bullshit.
All she was trying to do is just say I gave some money up. I don't care where it goes.
So that's
go get it.
That's why like you were telling me
anywhere. If you tell me police is not welcome over there and ambulances are not welcome over there, what in the fuck am I doing there? What? No ambulance allowed? No police allowed? Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds like a great place to go. Sounds like a real safe place where there's a lot of intelligence. Yeah, right.
Especially, at the state of the age we're in, you got to think, man, like
that's a zone for you to sell drugs and sell pussy, and no one's gonna bother you.
Yeah, you like you said, box truck. And just before we go into the next subject, because this is gonna be controversial, these next couple ones, but you with your box truck, if you, what advice would you give to a young black male that wanted to get into a position of leadership and he wants to get his bread up and stuff like that? What advice would you give him in terms of what kind of business deals or things that he could do as far as like box trucks? And because you move around the country a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would tell anybody to invest in, don't be scared to invest in yourself. I mean, everybody has some sort of a talent.
Right.
Whatever it is, I would say that see what you're real talented at and put an LLC behind it. I'm in the process of making myself a business. It's going to take a couple more months. Phil Solomon LLC.
I don't have a business. I am the business, right?
Yeah. That's because anything I do is predicated on me. I decide I don't want to work or I don't want to do nothing for a while or I die or something. All this shit's over.
Right.
It's all predicated on my brain. You know what I'm talking about? Everything I do is predicated on my brain. See, I'm a little different than everybody else. I think outside the box. I had one goal in life, and that was to make over $100,000 a year and sit on my recliner and smoke weed. And I've accomplished that, So
that's
now
pretty good money. That's decent money, man.
Yeah. You just got to stay on top of your ball. You can't be doing all that drinking and partying, and you got to have your mind. That's the most important thing. I would tell anybody young or anything. I wouldn't actually give them any advice on how to make money because really no one could tell you how to do that. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, man, how you be doing what you doing, Phil? They don't really want to know.
No, they don't.
Because I mean, everybody just sees the end result. They don't see the process that gets to the result. And they don't realize that there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. Especially if you're going to go like what I do. You're just totally doing your own thing and, you ain't got nobody investing in you, and you invest in all your own businesses and everything. Everything I own belongs to me. Can't no motherfucker come behind me with nothing. You know what I mean? Can't nobody come behind me saying, hey, man, you didn't pay me for that truck this month, or I'm going to repo this, or I don't play that game. So I would just tell anybody young, don't waste your mind, is what I would tell them. Just don't waste your mind on foolishness. Okay. Whether it's, chasing dumb girls or, getting involved in the he said, she said shit that goes on in, a lot of hoods. Stay out of that type of shit, man. Keep yourself focused, on, even if you're not focused on business or anything like that, you just focus on being positive, which a lot of times it's a chore within itself, right? Just to stay on the positive end of life and not not go
Have you-
down the bad road. And then the number one thing you want to tell young people is don't worry about chasing women when you're young, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Get your money right. Once you get your money right, man, you be able to pick and choose who you want.
Have you noticed in the last, I'll say within the last, I'm not even going to say the last 5 years, but now that the riots is over and the clout's over, and have you noticed in the last 18 months that how thirsty the women have been in public, like far as just the attention, like where they kind of, if you notice that they kind of look like, damn man, I need some help, like, because I'm seeing this all over the internet, and I just want people to be clear tonight that they say that the internet is a mirage to a certain degree. The news doesn't matter anymore. The black media is what matters. The new black media, that is. The internet now is the news. And what I mean by that is, yeah, there's a lot of cap. But now, and I made a video not too long ago where I said social media has made it to where people that probably don't either know shit, shouldn't really have a voice in certain matters, or like, for example, $5,000-$10,000 belt, $100,000 car. You're not supposed to have access like that if you're living in Section 8 or making under $100,000. You're not supposed to have access to that, let alone even probably see it. Yet and still, you have TikTok, all forms, social media, all of this stuff where you got chicks running around here talking about, well, I got to have $100,000 nigga. You got to have a Bentley, blah, 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 blah. I bring all this baggage, and I don't add anything to this man, but this is what I want. The reality is you're not going to get it. It's not enough 100,000 niggas in the city of Minneapolis I'm talking about around. You're not going to get that. It's just not happening. And they have better options if they're making that kind of money. I know. So, the internet, however, has archives. You can pull up and say, okay, DP and Solomon, they had a conversation about this. Hey, DP, I need you to explain that. I need you to clarify what you meant. That's the beauty of the digital archiving that I will say. I do like that piece of technology. So this is before the internet, where we actually had to kind of be outside and go get the CDs. Jim Jones and Oz. Now you send me a clip in Harlem. I was actually shocked. It was mostly people in Harlem that was like, man, I'm from Harlem, but I'll never disrespect Escobar. I mean, I seen all these clips. It was just everywhere. They were like, okay, that nigga crazy. Like, yeah, I'm from Harlem. I seen Styles P and Jadakiss in Harlem the other day. They were like, hey, Jimmy. Hey, they weren't being specific, but you could know what they were talking about. They were like, man, hey, Jimmy, we need some new shoes, Jimmy. Or they were like joking with him, but you could tell they were like, nigga, you ain't touching Nas. Viral, when you use that term viral, that means that's that new social media shit. That's new clout. Viral was being, you know what viral was? Viral was, okay, I'll tell you what viral was. And we ain't gotta go in no details because I don't, it's old. Viral is when you came to school, like, yeah, DP put them hands on you. We ain't gonna really get the detail. I'm just saying that was viral. That was considered to be viral back then, where everybody knew. I came to class, I said, nigga, how the fuck everybody know about this shit? I didn't tell nobody, bro. Man, how'd y'all find out about Phil's big mouth ass? I was like, yeah, this instigating nigga. He told 3 people in the whole school knew. People coming up to me like, man, what happened? What happened? What happened? And I'm like, now that was viral at our day. Viral now is, oh, I got 1 million views in a month or something like that, or everybody's just posting it. But the thing is, Jimmy, you're from the old school, dude. You're 50 years old. He's older than us. You knew how it was to be outside without the clout. So if you're gonna say, well, I'm more viral than you, man, that's a young nigga game thing. Who 50 says that? Well, man, you ain't viral. You never been viral. Nigga, you 50. We don't talk like that. You never been viral.
Yeah, but that's a term for today.
I know, but the thing is like, I never heard Carter say it. I don't hear none of the legends talk like that.
His point was, I'm more relevant than Nas today.
But you're really not, dude, because the thing is, not only can you not fill up an arena, but people don't patent your rhyme patterns.
No.
I'm not taking anything away from Jimmy. I swear I'm not, bro. I'm saying when we thought of Dipset, that's not who we thought of. We thought of that later. Now, maybe on the streets, people thought about that. But when we thought about Dipset, we thought about Killer and we thought about Jules first. He ended up getting more popular later on. But I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I'm going to be 100%. I'm not going to cap. I'm not taking nothing away from the man. Nothing. When we used to buy them Dipset mixtapes before they got signed with The Rock, everybody gets fast forward to Jim Jones song rhymes. When we heard Jimmy and Jules, sometimes we be like, we tune Jim out. Sometimes we be like, man, this nigga can't really rap like that. Now, later on, when we start kind of really listening to him, maybe because I didn't like his voice or whatever, I was like, okay, he got some bars, but you ain't messing with Killer. You definitely ain't messing with Big L. You know what I'm saying? Now, Jimmy found a way to go independent. I'm not going to say he's a fool. He sounds kind of stupid when you hear him talk, but the thing is, he did the we ballin', then he did the Diddy thing. You better remember, bro, all his hits came from Max Big Avail. All his hits came from Max B, bro. Let's keep it real. When Max B wasn't around, he didn't have hits like that. Max B wrote all those hits. Max B just didn't get his publishing and his paperwork because he probably trusted him. So he did the same thing that Diddy did. Exactly. That's why they had that beef in Harlem. That's why they was beating up Jim Jones and all them niggas in Harlem and shit like that. And they were having little fights and stuff like that. Because Max B was like, man, you got me messed up. You gotta think about this, bro. I'm a hip-hop historian to my own right. I bought every magazine, every album. I'm talking about you know how serious I was about this, bro. Like, I'm a real archivist about this shit. Jimmy didn't have hits like that before Max Big Avail, bro. We Fly High, all that stuff was Max B wrote it. Max B was the hook man. You see what I'm saying? So you're saying, well, Nas ain't relevant. That's like saying Rakim ain't relevant. Nas was our Rakim. He brought in a new rhyme pattern. He modified the rhyme pattern of Rakim and took it to an enhanced level of his own. Much like Kool G Rap as well. Kool G Rap, like, you remember when I used to do stuff. Who was one of my biggest influences, bro? Sweet James Jones, Pimp C, and Kool G Rap. Those were my biggest influences, bro. Kool G Rap and Pimp C. So if you're going to make the claim that Nas is not relevant, this man's doing whole orchestras. He signed people like Dave East, which, you know, Dave got a few bars. You can't name nobody that Jim came out with that actually did anything. Not one. You can't give me one artist that Jimmy put out that was good. The Bird City Purple Gang and all them dudes are them little. He put out Max B, but Max B came with his own talent and stuff. But he didn't push Max B like that. Max B got tired of putting. Max B was the best artist over there at Bird Gang, and he did the same thing that Gangsta Gibbs did with Jeezy. Nigga, you're trying to spoon feed me. You want me over here because you need me to be the flagship artist for your label to make everybody else look good. But I'm the best one. But I don't want you bigger than me. Much like Carter. Let's talk about Rockefeller. Ask me any question you want, bro. Rockefeller, when they signed Cam, that VP position, that was because, you know, Dame knew that Dipset, you got to think, when they came in with platinum plaques. It took Seagull and State Property. They were kind of going a little gold and stuff. They were doing something, but they weren't moving units like Dipset. Dipset had the streets. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, they had it. They had it all.
They had it. So now, all right. So now, and actually, that was actually kind of smart to bring up this conversation when it came to Jimmy. Jimmy knows damn well he can't touch Nas at all. Not one bit. But the fact that he said it, it's not like Jim Jones was somebody like Lil B. If Lil B said, "Yeah, man, I could beat Nas," you just laugh. You wouldn't even. I don't even think we'd be talking about it. We just be like, "Ah, man, that nigga just high." You know what I'm saying? You remember he came out with an album called "I'm Gay." Do you remember that?
The bass god?
Yeah, he came out with an album called "I'm Gay," and the LGBT community got mad because he felt like they were trolling him. Like, I mean, he knew what he was doing. I mean, it was, you know, they got real upset about that. He's like, yeah, I'm gay. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the album was called. It's called "I'm Gay." But
Yeah, you knew
it's so
it.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I get it. Like, so Jimmy's not like a Lil B. This is a nigga that can rap. So it's not like Lil B saying it, but you know, we're looking at Jimmy like, okay, you kind of come from that era, dude. You didn't come out when Killer Cam, Murder Mace, and Bloodshed, was it Bloodshed or Herb McGruff, when they had Children of the Corn, nigga, you weren't on none of those records. Jimmy, I don't even know if that nigga was a Blood by that time. New York got the gangbanging later. You know what I'm saying? Minneapolis was gangbanging before New York. You got to think, the gang's been around since the Bloods and Crips been around since the 80s in New York, in Minneapolis. That came later in New York. So, yeah, Jimmy, you probably was out here hustling and doing whatever you do, but you weren't in the Children of the Corn. I never heard, because I had those Big L records. I remember when Herb McGruff came out with that album in 1998. Herb McGruff, he was a nigga from Harlem. Herb McGruff, I had the album. I remember he came out with the album. I think it was on Columbia, because Big L was on Columbia. Same album, same. Big L was on the same record label as Nas at that one point in time. Nas was on Columbia for a long time, bro. So, you know, if you say relevance, you know, you don't have a lot of dudes that's breaking out talking about, yeah, man, I want to sound just like Jimmy. They might say I want to sound like Dipset, but when they say Dipset, they're talking about Jules and now later on maybe Vado. Now Vado was better than Jules if you ask me. Vado was a Harlem dude that they signed. That nigga could rap. He made a couple mixtapes with Killer Cam. He was cold. He was cold. Vado was cold, man. Vado was cold. I gotta send you some Vado stuff. Vado got bars. He reminds you of like a Harlem Papoose. He raps a little slower. That nigga can rap his ass off.
He just didn't work hard enough.
Well,
to promote himself.
I don't know how hard he worked. Maybe that could be true, but the thing is he's, when you're like a battle rapper where you got furious bars, you're much like Papoose. Most people don't want to hear no nigga that can rap his ass off. Let's just be honest. Most people don't want to hear a Tech Nine. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to. Now, Tech Nine is an underground king, you know, and he probably sells more records than the average person. But the thing is, no one wants to think. If you have a record where you're hearing something like this, man, I got some pieces on it. Niggas rather hear that. Some drugged out, you know, dope fiend induced mumbling ass nigga. Don't nobody want to hear that. You'll play some 8-Ball MJG for them, and they'll be like, man, that's whack. I got to think too much. And you're like, what? You 8-Ball MJG the double disc Lost CD with the bonus CD with Psychodrama? That's whack. Man, I don't want to hear that. I got to think too much. These niggas ain't trying to think like that, bro. They start getting high. They don't want to do a bunch of thinking. They don't want to do like how we did, where we can't get through the whole song. We got to rewind the song. Like, damn, what that nigga say? That was cold. Like, we'll dissect it. You remember we used to do that. We'll stop the song in the middle of the song and be like, hold on. And we'll dissect the lyrics like, that was hard. They don't do that because there's nothing to dissect a lot of times. You'll hear a nigga mumbling and, you ain't really got to. Have you ever noticed that? You've never listened to no song and heard nobody in the last 15 years that said, man, hold on, let me play that again, bro. I'm talking about didn't wait till it all went through. I'm talking about went halfway through the song. Hold on, rewind that. I want to hear that again. Just the lyrics. They're not doing that. They'll play the song back to back maybe, but they're not rewinding it and stopping it bit by bit to hear what they said. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. You play some 8-Ball MJG or some 3 Stacks or some Tila or some Yuck Mouth, or you play some, or some Nature or Cormega. The average person looking right now, they like, oh man, now I want to give it to like Griselda, Benny the Butcher, and guys like that. Yeah, folks, they bought them bars. So they brought them bars back. They brought them bars back. That reminded me of that old school Havoc and Mobb Deep and stuff. So yeah, Jimmy knows. He knows you ain't nowhere. I don't even know if Nas responded, but it's kind of like, oh, whatever, dude. Like he,
I don't think Nas responded at all. I wouldn't, because if Jim Jones was confronted by Nas, he would just say, "I was just doing it to try to get some more publicity."
Yeah, there's no hate. Them, like I said, them guys, them dudes probably love each other. They like, man, these, you gotta think, Jimmy, he's gonna do his 50 Cent if he got to. He gonna do his 50 Cent if he got to. You said who? Who you talking about?
Cam. I don't think Jim
Cam?
Crazy about Cam. You keep calling him a bird.
Well, I mean, put it like this, man. Whatever, who knows what it could have been. This is what I tell you about groups, man. Groups don't last. You notice that?
I don't.
Hip hop groups don't last. You asked a question. You said you were gonna ask me at one point in time when you get your podcast together. You said, why is it that rock groups can go on and on and on and tour till they're like 60 years old? You remember that? Yeah. I think I lost you. Your cell phone's going in and out or something. Yeah, I think it's going in and out, man. Is that you? Hello? Something's going on with your phone, bro. Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened. Okay. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
So, yeah, I can hear you now. All right. So now, what was the other thing that I wanted to ask? I think we broke up for a little bit.
You're saying, why do the rock and roll artists, their careers last longer? They can go on tour. That's what I was asking you.
Yeah. So one thing about it is groups, they're hard to keep in together. That's number one. Number two, when you're making, not to say I'm not saying hip hop ain't music, because it's derived off funk and the blues. You have musicians. When you're doing blues, you're dealing with musicians. And I want people to understand what I'm trying to say here. Now, when they say rock groups, most people, when they hear rock groups, they think of white. Rock is not white. Rock is blues based. Blues is 110,000% based off the descendants of the slaves here in this country. Architected by who? Rosetta Thornton, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. Those were the architects of rock and roll. And there was a couple others too. Now, who was the architects of blues? You see what I'm saying? That's the next question. I'm going to let y'all Google that. But those were the people, Muddy Waters. Those were one of the main pioneers. Lil Walter, Robert Johnson, and there's several others. There's some others. Who was the architect of Chicago blues? I want y'all to Google that. I'm not going to tell you. So now, when we say rock, most people think of the success of major white bands. White people that were rock stars or big in rock did not create rock. They didn't do shit for it. They came in after blacks did the heavy lifting, and they listened to them. And much like Elvis, they was playing. Not to say that some of them can't play good. Not saying that at all. I'm saying that, so now you got a band. We're creating music. We're perfecting our craft. if I rap and you rap, and I'm just talking from a musical standpoint, I might get a little older. There might be only so much that I could say. Now, I could talk about being older, like Foreign Exchange or Little Brother, Fonte and them. I could talk about raising kids and all that. That ain't always so cool, right? Well, as a rapper, I can keep doing either a mature style of rap, as they would say. I'm talking about different things. And now, or I could keep doing my old stuff. Dr. Dre still go on tour. Wu-Tang go on tour. Rakim go on tour. Grandmaster, they'll do the old stuff overseas, especially. When you're a musician, okay, you could keep creating new stuff. I'm talking about if you're a real musician, like DJ Quick. You see when somebody plays instruments or something like that. Or you're a blues musician. We were talking about rock now, rock and roll music. You can keep creating new songs, not just singing as if it's, rapping. There's only so much I could talk about. Now, if I'm doing the blues, I could keep making a whole bunch of new sounds. Not saying that with rap, I can't make a bunch of new beats. That's one thing. Here's the second element. Some people ain't gonna like this. Y'all gonna be a little surprised on my take. I'm a hip hop purist. I gotta say this. Raps from the streets. Blues is from it too. But blues ain't really, blues is basically talking about you broke, bro. That's why I really want you to see this Sinners movie. I might have to get you the DVD because I know you ain't gonna go out and see it. You ain't a theater fan. I may have to get you the DVD next week. Man, blues is talking about hard times. Rap's talking about that too. But you got to think about it, bro. When I'm rapping, I'm not rapping as the blues. Now, you got folks that still do the blues that rap, like Zero from Houston, Texas. Now, that nigga does the blues because he could sing. You see, he could rap his ass off, but he could sing. So his melodies are very, very gospel-oriented, very blues, very, very, you kind of feel, it reminds you of the Delta Blues when he does his records. They're very, very blues-oriented. He's talking about the blues. He's talking about some hard times. That's what he's talking about in a lot of his records, hard times. You don't want to talk about the hard times too long in rap. Most rappers, we rapping and we talking about some hard times. But remember, when Nas started making money, he's talking about Escobar, cocaine, kingpin, stuff like that. He's talking about getting some money. He ain't talking about hard times no more. That's why he had to go back to Queensbridge Projects to record Stillmatic. Remember, he did he did Illmatic. He did It Was Written. He was talking about Nas Escobar. Who was Escobar? Drug kingpin. So he got these stories about being a kingpin and all this kind of stuff. He's making these stories up. All right, so now you do Nas. Now he did I Am. He went back to some of his old stuff, but that was more of a You Can Hate Me Now with P. Diddy. What was Hate Me Now about? That nigga got tigers in his videos. He ain't talking about being broke. He's not talking about being broke, bro. He's talking about getting some bread. So now then he comes up with Nostradamus, more philosophical. Now, Project Windows with Ronald Isley, they should have made a video of that. But a lot of the stuff on Nostradamus, You Owe Me. Now, he was speaking commentary like when Timbaland made the beat, You Owe Me Back Like 40 Acres, the Blacks. That went over people's heads, but he's throwing a little bit in there for you. I got to throw something in here, but he got Genuine on it. It's more of a commercial record. That record wasn't one of his best records. We were always critical of Nas and Nostradamus. I don't even play it no more, really. He was spitting bars, but you're like, okay, this is more of a commercial. You could tell he was trying to be into more of the commercial a little bit. That wasn't working. What did he have to do? He had to come back to us. Stillmatic. He had to burn up Carter. He had to burn Jay-Z alive. Then he had Rewind, where he was rapping backwards, and then he had the You the Man. I mean, come on, man. Like, Do you know I froze to death almost when I went to Circuit City to go buy that record? I believe I went to go buy that in the winter or something. I had to go to Roseville to buy that. Was that Stillmatic when that? Let me see. When did Stillmatic come out? I want to be correct. I want to be correct, man. What year did Stillmatic come out? December 18, 2001. A day after my birthday, that album came out. Man, I went to Circuit City in Roseville. I don't even know how I got out there. I almost got hit by a car trying to cross the freeway to get to Circuit City because they had the bonus. They had the bonus. See, that's hip hop right there. You know what I'm saying? That's hip hop for you. I remember, it came out December 18th, the day after my birthday. That was one of the best birthday presents I ever damn got. Released on Ill Will and Columbia Records. Let's break Stillmatic down. It sold 300,000 its first week, man. Please, that's almost gold. Went on to go double platinum. Got Yourself a Gun. He knocked. I remember Ether was crazy. I remember let me see, it came out December 18th, 2001. Okay, so we graduated from South High when? I graduated in, let me see here. I graduated June 2001, right? So, yeah, this came out right after high school. But when did Ether come out? When did Ether come out? Hold on. Let's break this down. I'm about to listen to this on my way to work. Okay, so Ether came out. It came out December 4, 2001. Okay, so that came out in the winter. Well, I don't know why. It seemed like we were talking about this in high school, but high school was done. So I don't know where this conversation was going, but okay. Well, and The Takeover came out in September 11, 2001. So yeah, I was out of high school when that came out, but it was a huge conversation between Ether and Takeover. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Jay-Z, he wasn't doing nothing against Ether. But anyway, how did I get into this Stillmatic thing? I was talking about something else. Make sure I still got you online.
Jimmy. You're talking about Jimmy.
Okay, yeah. So Dipset, they initially started in 97, but they didn't get signed. See, in 99, Jules joined the group. So now, remember, Sex, Drugs, and Entertainment with Cam, that came out in 2000. So that's a year before we graduated high school. So it says here, the first commercial appearance of the group was on Cameron's SDE, released on Epic Records. Cam demanded a release from Epic, and he signed with The Rock. And then he released Come Home With Me. That came out March 14, 2002. It was recorded in 01 and 02. Then after that, they came out with Diplomatic Immunity in 2003. Diplomatic Immunity came out in 2004. Part 2, Diplomatic Immunity. Because they left The Rock. That was through Koch. Right? So, yeah, Jones didn't really come out, man, far as a solo artist. That was around maybe 04 or something, I think, when Jones came out as a solo artist. In April 2010, Cameron and Jones officially announced the end of their feud So they were gonna do a Dipset album, I think. Now I didn't know this. January 2011, it was reported that the Dipset signed a record deal with Interscope Records, but that never came out. That happens all the time when people sign records and stuff. Like I say, it's a business. So yeah, Diplomatic Immunity came out in 2003, Diplomatic Immunity 2004, Diplomatic Ties 2018. So now I'm going to tell you to check this out. Now, Diplomatic Immunity, the first one came out in 2003. That went gold. Then the second one came out on Cox Records. That was independent. Now, I want you to now check this out. There was another one I bought called More Than Music, called Dipset Volume 1. That was on Koch. That was in 2005. But I'm trying to figure out when was their mixtapes. Okay, here it is right here. This is what I was trying to tell you, how they had New York on Smash, hosted by DJ K. Slay. Diplomats Volume 1, that was in 2002. Diplomats Volume 2, that came out in 2002. Diplomats Volume 3, same year. Diplomats Volume 4, 2003. Diplomats Volume 5, 2003. Memorial Day, 2005. So the Dipset had these mixtapes that came out between 2002 and 2003. That's when they was really, really killing the streets. So Jimmy didn't really start doing nothing, man, until the quarter of the beginning or so of the 2000s. So when you say relevant, come on, man, nobody's breaking their neck. Nobody was breaking their neck to get a Jim Jones verse. Back then, you couldn't get a Nas verse. You still can't get no Nas verse hardly. It ain't hard to get a Jimmy verse, bro. It's not. But a Nas verse, you ain't getting no Nas verse like that. Nas ain't gonna get on your record if he don't think you can rap. Jimmy probably don't care. That's the difference when we talk about, well, what's relevant. Relevant is based on the culture. When we want to use Instagram and views and stuff, that's kind of hard to determine, relevance. That's kind of hard if you just want to say, well, because like I say, you go to Harlem and you start asking questions on where it all started. And Harlem gonna tell you. They gonna tell you on who really got the bars. So I wanted to ask you before we close, because it's gonna cut off in another 10 minutes. What do you think is next for the Diddler?
Well,
what would you do if you was his? What would you do if you were his lawyer? Because he's staying in jail till sentencing. Yeah, what would you do? Would you tell him to call Donald, try to get that pardon going?
Yeah, well, I would have already been trying to do that behind the channels. Behind the scenes, I'd already been trying to do that. But I mean, he's got the sentencing aim for 3 months, right?
I'm not sure how long it is. It could be 3 months. Maybe it could be sooner. I'm looking at this at some older information here where it's saying what is this here? Let's see. Combs will sleep well tonight despite remaining in jail. This is a huge win. Defense lawyer Anna Estavio said outside court, celebrating 3 acquittals, 1 for a client. Quote, he was acquitted of sex trafficking, acquitted of the RICO. He will be able to sleep well at night knowing that. Yeah, I mean, you were right. You told me, like, man, that's a huge win. I mean, that is, bro. The jury saw it for what it was.
Not totally out the woods yet.
Yeah, he's not free. Yeah, he's not out the wood. And then you got lawsuits coming in.
Run those. Well, yeah, that's one thing. But you got the feds could try to charge him separately for them, and he could get a 10-piece for each one of them. If he gets anything over 2 or 3 years, he's gonna go right back to being pissed off. He's hoping that the judge will look at it, because the Didn't show him any leniency when he denied his bond. He showed him no leniency when he denied his bond. So you got to almost think when sentencing come, maybe, he's not going to be so lenient, or he might be like, you know what, that's it. He just served it now. Which is, I think what will happen is when they come in for sentencing, the judge will say time served.
Now, you mentioned Gary, Indiana before we leave. You mentioned Gary, Indiana. You said you were not too much of a fan between Chicago and Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, Quad Cities. Yeah.
Now, Gary, Indiana has
in Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky, Indiana, Chicago. Those are Quad Cities.
What's going on in the Quad Cities?
Because they're so close. Milwaukee is in it too. There's some parts of Kentucky that bleed into Indiana, and they call it Kentuckiana.
Kentuckiana?
Yeah.
Let me look this up.
Yeah, it bleeds into, it's like a nickname. It's like a kind of right on the border of Indiana and Kentucky.
Quad Cities is a region of 5 cities.
Yeah.
It says in the U.S. states of Iowa and Illinois, Davenport and Benterdorf, in southeastern Iowa, Rock Island, Moline, and East Moline. Before I had a car, man, when like Black Planet was cracking off, or a little after that, MySpace. Now that was the social media for us. For people who don't know, I mean, we're not. I want my listeners to know, man, we're young enough to touch a LC2 floppy disk, if we could say that. But we're young enough to see Chief Keef go on his rise. We're old, but we're not old and outdated. Like, we know what's going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? We understand what it's like. You know what I'm saying? I know sometimes people be thinking, man, y'all are kind of old. No, we're not old. We're from the technology phase like y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, for any of my younger listeners, we grew up computer heads. Like, internet really started cracking off real heavy with the Napster days and stuff, where I'm talking about commercially. Around like when 50 Cent came out, 2000, 2001. Like, the first time I had DSL between 99 and, 99, 2001. Might have been 98. But we used to have this thing called Net Zero. We had dial-up. It was just slow. Like, you didn't really get on the internet to do much. It wasn't like it is now. There definitely wasn't no YouTube. You had to learn everything on your own. But now we had Napster. So that was big for us. Like, you remember, bro, I was in school. We was making money doing that shit. Like, I remember in Quad, I met some chick on off some line or off the internet or something from Quad Cities or something. She wanted me to come down there at one point in time, and she stayed in Davenport,
Iowa.
Yeah, and she said I stay in the Quad Cities, and I kind of looked it up. I didn't really know too much about it because and around that time I wasn't making too much money, so I didn't really want to go down there. He was decent, but she said, yeah, it's by Moline and Davenport. And I went on YouTube and I seen, it's a lot of foundationals down there, man. And from what I seen, they had it a little rough down there. Like, they were struggling a little bit, man. Like, the population, because a lot of black folks, they're in like Waterloo. Cavassier was from Waterloo. She was from Waterloo, like Waterloo and Okay, well, I'll make this real quick. She was this chick. We was in South High. We went to South High, and I remember one time I was seeing some chick from the North Side at one point, and she I was supposed to be like her boyfriend, so I didn't know nothing about that. I ain't had no game at that time. That was my first little love of my life, or whatever the hell I call it. And it was some chick from over north. You gonna laugh when you hear this shit. We might have to extend this live. It was some chick from over north that I was seeing. And this had to been maybe could have been 10th grade, but likely was 11th grade. So I'm sitting there listening to the 8-ball double disc and shit. I'm riding in my homies, gray Chevy and stuff like that. And so, somehow some dude must have met some girl over north, and then they introduced me to to this chick from over north. She didn't go to my school initially, I don't think. So she eventually started going over south. And she stayed in an area over north where the people had a little bit of money. They had a couple dollars, like, you know what I'm saying, where they stayed. They stayed over there in off like Golden Valley, kind of that area. I don't know if you're familiar when you go over north, like off of Queens and off of Plymouth, but if you go back towards Golden Valley, Minnesota, you got some black folks that got a little paper over there. You know what I'm saying? So some of the houses are big and they're custom built and stuff. So she kind of stayed over there. She was eventually going over south. And I started talking to her. We was on the phone and stuff like that. So I'm supposed to be her boyfriend and stuff. So I go to school, and I guess over the summer, some guy she must have seen or something that for a minute. And she sees the nigga. I'm walking out to school with her, and she sees the nigga. And if you talking about feeling like a simp, she sees the nigga and runs up to him and jumps on him and hugging him. Some nigga named Randy. So now I was cool with Randy, but she must have knew him before me. So she kind of gets like, ignore me almost. So I'm kind of salty at this time. Like, damn, you know what I'm saying? So I guess what happened is you must have heard about what was going on or something like that. Like, hey man, she's seeing this other nigga. I think we had different classes. So I didn't see you a lot. This must have been maybe 11th grade. It might have been 12th for a little bit until I went to WOC, but it was definitely 10th or 11th grade. And you must have seen the chick. I got to make another video about this. You must have seen the chick, and you knew the Cavassier was in my class because this was like on the 3rd floor where me and LT had got suspended or something. So this had to have been like 10th or 11th grade. You knew that me and her had a class together, so you must have got word to her. So when I seen her, I didn't see her that much until like this is like after the summer. So when I seen her again, you know, she done got thick. Like she done look bad. She looked completely different than when I seen her. So you must have sent word with her, and she seen me in the hallway and said like, hey, you know, your bitch broke bad on you. And I said, what? He said, Phil told me to tell you that your bitch broke bad. I didn't know what that meant, bro. I didn't know what that meant. And so come to find out, the girl, she ends up writing me a note. She walks up to me and hands me a note and says, don't read it till you get home. I was so heartbroken. It was the funniest thing ever when I look back. It is hilarious. I get home. Now, I can't remember if I read it when I got home. I might have took like a little peek of it on the way.
What did I say?
On the way home?
The bitch what?
The bitch broke bad. That was the message you gave to Cavassier. And so Cavassier's walking up to me like, hey, Phil gave me a message to tell you, like, you know, your bitch broke bad on you. So Cavassier was kind of shooting her shot. She said, hey, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She said she must have, I don't know, she must have like got some little pimp talk, or either she must have picked it up from you. I don't know. But she said your bitch broke bad on you. Lose the 0 and get with a hero. That's That's what she told me.
Or what to say.
So she told me, and I thought she was kind of hating because she said something before, and I didn't really pick on it because, you know, some women, they don't want to really, you know, but she told me that. She said something to me before some days ago about her, and I'm like, oh no, I'm just kind of in love bug, you know. But she said, so when I heard her from you, when she seen me, and she said, man, your homie Phil got a message, and she walks up to me, and I'm looking at her like, damn, she looking real thick. So she said, your bitch broke bad, and I said, what? You know, I'm still green. I don't know what none of that stuff means, fam. Like, that was around my time. That was like, I think that was the first time that like. That was a year after the first time I smoked a blunt, and we was at your crib, and you're like, I didn't know nothing about no weed. You're like, hey bro, you know what I'm saying? You want to try this? And you're like, you ain't got to. And I smoked it, and I started talking about video games and stuff. And you said, you get some hoes, you ain't gonna think about no games. And you was not lying, bro. To this day, you was not lying. You said as soon as you start hollering these broads, you ain't gonna think about no more video games or no Transformers or no more. That's gonna be out the window. And you was not lying. Yeah. But she said she broke bad. So when I know I got that message from her, from you, I knew it was real. I knew it was real. She said, man, she done broke bad on you, man. And so then later on that day, the girl gave me a note. I go home, I read it. My heart was shattered. I think I smoked like 50 blunts. Because that ain't never happened to me, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know anything. I'm looking at the letter. She's basically saying, yeah, we breaking up or whatever. We didn't really do anything or whatever. But the whole thing, I just kept thinking about Randy. So I seen Randy like a couple days later at school. He came real pimpish. He came up to me, he's like, hey, man, I didn't know, bro. He said, man, I didn't know. That's what he told me, bro. He's like, man, I didn't know. And I wasn't really hating on him. He came on some, she chose me. But by that time, I had already, and see, that's what I miss about, that's what I really, really, really miss about, the old days, man. Like before all this social media and stuff like that, man. You fresh, you got a couple dollars, man. You in there. I remember we didn't even have cars, man, and you could pull something bad.
Yeah.
If you want me to continue this live, I'll send you one right away.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's continue it. Let's rock out, man. We can go for like another 30 minutes. I'm gonna send you the new live in 1 minute, and then we gonna add it together.
Okay.
All right, peace.